This hurricane has the strongest winds ever recorded by a dropsonde in a tropical cyclone.
At 252 miles per hour.
What's up, guys? It's Kayla
and Jim.
Welcome back to another Meteorology Monday. What are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about a record-setting tropical system that impacted most of the Caribbean region. This was the October 2025 Hurricane Melissa. It not only set records for the Atlantic Basin, it also set records on a global aspect as well. And we will get into those details in just a second, but before we get started,
if you find that you're enjoying this video along the way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below so you never miss the next Meteorology Monday.
As you can probably tell by how I'm looking right now, it is exceeding 4,000 Kelvin in this garage today.
It is.
So please bear with us. We are doing this. We're going to do this. We're going to have a great time sharing this case study with you guys.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and get into it. On October 13th, 2025, an active tropical wave emerged off the west coast of Africa. It moved quickly westward across the eastern Atlantic at about 15 to 18 knots for several days. As the disturbance approached the Lesser Antilles, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico on October 19th and 20th, it began to slow its forward momentum. A large area of showers and thunderstorms developed, producing gusty winds and heavy rainfall. On October 20th, the wave gradually improved its convective organization, and satellite-derived wind data that day indicated the system was already producing tropical storm-force winds despite lacking a well-defined low-level center.
Although there was moderate westerly vertical wind shear present, the system continued to intensify and eventually developed a closed, well-defined, low-level circulation around 6 UTC on October 21st. The disturbance would be named Tropical Storm Melissa, forming about 175 nautical miles south of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Maximum sustained winds at this point increased to 40 knots. By mid-morning, a tropical storm watch was issued for Jamaica and a hurricane watch issued for the Dominican Republic-Haiti border westward to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Over the next few days, a mid-level ridge would form to the north of Melissa, with a trough developing over the western Caribbean. As the storm slowly meandered northwestward, moderate southwesterly wind shear finally limited new convective growth. Any existing convection was shifted to the eastern side of the storm.
At 12 UTC on the 23rd, the Tropical Storm Watch for Jamaica was upgraded to a Tropical Storm Warning and a Hurricane Watch. Later, on the 23rd, a Tropical Storm Warning was issued from the Dominican Republic-Haiti border westward to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. As the shear began to diminish, Melissa became better organized with a more vertically aligned circulation. A central dense overcast developed with deep convection firing around the center. This would begin the cycle of intensification from October 24th through the following morning. At 3 UTC on October 25th, the Hurricane Watch for Jamaica was upgraded to a hurricane warning. By early afternoon, Melissa strengthened into a hurricane about 150 nautical miles south of Jamaica. The storm would also wobble to the east, then the north, then to the west, as it was positioned south of a mid-level ridge. Melissa moved over very warm water and intensified rapidly. An eye wall could be seen by late on the 25th. At 21 UTC, a hurricane watch was issued for the Cuban provinces of Granma, Santiago de Cuba, Guantanamo, and Holguin. Over the next 6 hours, Melissa's maximum sustained winds would increase 45 knots in 24 hours, making her a major hurricane. By 18 UTC on October 26th, the eye was 10 nautical miles wide, and maximum sustained winds reached 120 knots, or about 140 miles per hour. Her position at this time was south of Jamaica, moving slowly westward. At 21 UTC, the hurricane watch for the Cuban provinces of Granma, Santiago de Cuba, Guantanamo, and Holguin was upgraded to a hurricane warning. A tropical storm warning was also issued for the Cuban province of Las Tunas at this time. Additional strengthening occurred over the next 12 hours, and with the storm becoming a Category 5 on the morning of October 27th, about 120 nautical miles southwest of Kingston, Jamaica.
At 9 UTC, a hurricane watch was issued for the central and southeastern Bahamas, as well as the Turks and Caicos Islands. The ridge that steered Melissa slowly westward began to weaken as a trough moved across the Gulf of America and approached the western Caribbean Sea late on the 27th of October. This caused Melissa to turn sharply to the north-northeast. An eye-wall replacement cycle was occurring at this time and was evident on Jamaican weather radar. Even though there was a double eye-wall structure, aircraft data never showed the formation of an outer wind maximum. By 21 UTC, the hurricane watch for the central and southeastern Bahamas was upgraded to a hurricane warning, and a tropical storm warning was issued for the Turks and Caicos Islands. By the morning of the 28th, the eye diameter had slightly increased to about 15 nautical miles, with multiple mesovortices noted. Geostationary lightning mapper, or GLM satellite data, revealed a large amount of lightning occurring in the eye wall at a rate of 600 flashes in 30 minutes. As Melissa tracked to within 40 nautical miles south-southwest of New Hope, Jamaica, her maximum sustained winds increased to a stunning 165 knots, or roughly 190 miles per hour, making her one of the strongest hurricanes on record in the Atlantic Basin. Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicated that the minimum central pressure had fallen to 892 millibars. Around 1500 UTC, a tropical storm warning was issued for the Cuban province of Camagüey. The tropical storm warning for the Cuban province of Las Tunas was upgraded to a hurricane warning. In the last few hours before landfall, the core of the hurricane began to interact with southwestern Jamaica. The eye began to fill, and cloud-top data from infrared satellite imagery showed a warming trend. Melissa made landfall as an estimated 160 knot or 185 mile per hour Category 5 hurricane near New Hope, Jamaica, around 1725 UTC on October 28th.
With this intensity, Melissa is the strongest hurricane on record to make landfall in Jamaica and is tied for the strongest hurricane in terms of maximum sustained wind to make landfall in the Atlantic Basin, with Dorian in 2019 in the Bahamas and the Labor Day hurricane of 1935 in the Florida Keys. As the center of Melissa moved north-northeastward over the mountainous terrain of western Jamaica, the hurricane weakened and emerged off the north coast of the island as a Category 3 hurricane around 21 UTC that evening. At this time, a hurricane watch was put into effect for Bermuda. Melissa began to pick up speed as she moved north-northeastward between Jamaica and Cuba, due to an approaching trough to the west and a ridge to the east. Melissa's intensity would remain unchanged as she made landfall in the Santiago de Cuba province around 7:20 UTC on October 29th. Maximum sustained winds were estimated at 100 knots or 115 miles per hour, and an estimated central pressure of 954 millibars. Melissa's center would emerge off the north coast of Cuba around 13 UTC that morning as a Category 1 hurricane, with an estimated intensity of now 80 knots, or about 92 miles per hour. At 15 UTC, the hurricane watch for Bermuda was upgraded to a hurricane warning. Once over the southwestern Atlantic, Melissa accelerated northeastward toward the southeastern Bahamas. Increasing wind shear, combined with the storm's faster forward motion, disrupted Melissa's structure, as noted on satellite imagery. The NOAA Tail Doppler Radar, or TDR, data indicated an increasing tilt between the low and mid-level centers. As a result, the strongest winds and heaviest rainfall were displaced to the north and east of the low-level center. The hurricane's outer wind field also began to expand around this time. Melissa made its first landfall in the Bahamas on Long Island at 22:15 UTC on October 29th, with a maximum sustained wind of 80 knots, or about 92 miles per hour. The storm made a second landfall at 2 UTC on October 30th on San Salvador Island with the same intensity. During the morning of October 30th, Melissa generated a deep burst of convection, allowing the hurricane to briefly re-intensify. Satellite imagery showed the eye becoming better defined, while aircraft reconnaissance data indicated Melissa reached an intensity of 90 knots, or about 105 miles per hour, around 12 UTC that morning. about 260 nautical miles north of the southeastern Bahamas. As the hurricane moved across the western Atlantic, its forward speed increased to nearly 40 knots or 46 miles per hour. Vertical wind shear also increased, and the system moved over cooler sea surface temperatures, which caused gradual weakening of the peak winds. However, the wind field continued to expand. On this trajectory, Melissa's center would pass about 120 nautical miles west-northwest of Bermuda early on October 31st, bringing strong tropical storm force sustained winds and hurricane force wind gusts to the island. As Melissa continued to move over much cooler waters north of Bermuda, she became an extratropical cyclone by 12 UTC on October 31st, about 350 nautical miles north-northeast of Bermuda. The swiftly moving extratropical cyclone then opened up into a trough of low pressure by 12 UTC November 1st, passing southeast of Newfoundland. The remnants of Melissa were absorbed by a larger baroclinic trough over the North Atlantic the following day. So, very interesting case study so far.
Yep.
We've got some more things to go through with you, but just figured let's just talk about this for a minute. So,
Yep.
Wow, incredible. Landfalling at 160 knots,
Yep.
or 190 miles per hour, roughly.
One of the strongest on record in the Atlantic Basin.
Yeah, and absolutely incredible. I couldn't imagine what winds would be like at that speed. It just incredible.
No, and I know a bunch of you who have commented on our videos in the past have actually lived through Hurricane Melissa and were in Jamaica at this time. We have heard from some of you who were there experiencing this about what it actually looked like on the ground.
I've got some interesting statistics that we can go through. I'm just going to read them off, and it's very, very interesting. Again, we pulled this from our sources. Kayla's going to put them in the description below. So around the time of maximum intensity, a dropsonde measured an instantaneous peak wind of 219 knots, which is about 252 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And that's representative of a wind gust.
It is. It's not sustained. It's a wind gust.
It's a
but
wind
I mean,
gust.
still 252 miles per hour.
I know. At an altitude of 906 millibars. Now, what does that mean? So seriously? We gotta fly!
What does it mean, 906 millibars?
906 millibars. So if it had a minimum central pressure of 892, so 906 would be most likely, further aloft a little bit and then out from the absolute center of the storm. And I think we get down into more of the data around 1 to 200 meters off the ground, something like that, or off the ocean surface. So it's not like right at the surface, but it is aloft in one of the inner core bands. So a lot of stuff is going on in the eye wall. And this is one of the storms where they've used a lot of this data to actually get more measurements, and they're seeing more things going on within the eye wall. So very incredible stuff here. So anyways, that peak wind gust was the strongest ever recorded by the dropsonde, which is what we talked about in the very beginning of the video. Here's some additional stuff. Additional data collected by the NOAA reconnaissance aircraft includes tail Doppler radar, TDR, and experimental rain ocean atmospheric radar systems, RORS, that were not explicitly used in determining the peak intensity of Melissa. These data provided additional context regarding the extreme winds observed in the storm. The RORS instruments sampled an instantaneous wind of 241 knots, or about 277 miles per hour, along with a cluster of 1-second winds near 194 knots, or about 223 miles per hour, at approximately 500 meters above the ground, or above the ocean surface in the southern eye wall, around 1352 UTC that day.
Insane.
Right before landfall. So. However, these values, they say, represent instantaneous winds and do not correspond to a 1-minute sustained surface wind. So we understand that. There's more information here. Editing Kayla can pop it up and put some words in the description below. But just some incredible statistics on, we're measuring things far beyond the bounds of what we thought a Category 5 was capable of producing.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of this new instrumentation that's coming out, I know we talked about it in our Atlantic Hurricane Season forecast that NOAA put out, a bunch of the new and upcoming technology that they've been implementing over the past year and upcoming this year. Incredible stuff measuring wind speeds and gusts and instantaneous wind speeds inside all portions of the hurricane that normally we wouldn't have unless it hit a buoy or we sent a plane in or yada yada. So some very, very interesting data coming out in the recent years in recent hurricanes, especially with these stronger ones like Melissa last year. We also got a ton of data from Helene and Milton the year before. So the technology for measuring these hurricanes is just progressing, even though it's not surface wind, so it doesn't go into the official maximum wind speed for the hurricane. It still tells us a lot. Of measuring 277 miles per hour in a Category 5 hurricane is incredible.
One other interesting statistic here. There were no reconnaissance aircraft data available in the few hours before Melissa's landfall in Jamaica. The hurricane intensity at landfall near New Hope was estimated at 160 knots, or about 185 miles per hour, slightly below the estimated peak intensity based on the earlier aircraft reconnaissance data, as the degraded satellite representation of the satellite began to interact with the terrain of Jamaica. Okay, we get that. Here's an interesting thing. The highest wind gust reported in Jamaica was 114 knots, or 131 miles per hour, at the New Hope Primary School at 1600 UTC on October 28th, before the sensor tower failed. And then Melissa made landfall in an area of Jamaica where there was limited wind observing stations.
Right.
So it was really hard to calculate the full brunt of this storm, because the one station that we did have, the instrument was destroyed, and then there wasn't any other observing stations around. So incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
As with every case study, we go through some of the records that these major events broke. So here are some of the ones for Melissa. Melissa set a variety of meteorological records not only for the Atlantic Basin, but also globally. 165 knots, or 190 mile per hour peak maximum sustained wind speeds, tied for first with Hurricane Allen in 1980. 160 knot, or 185 mile per hour maximum sustained winds at landfall in Jamaica, tied for the strongest landfall with the Labor Day hurricane of 35 and Dorian in 2019. 892 millibar minimum central pressure, tied with the Labor Day hurricane, again for the third lowest behind Wilma at 882 in 2005 and Gilbert at 888 in 1988. 897 millibar minimum central pressure at landfall in Jamaica is the second lowest landfall pressure behind the Labor Day hurricane. And globally, Hurricane Melissa had the highest instantaneous wind measured by dropson at 252 miles per hour, beating out the previous record set by a super typhoon in 2010 at 240 miles per hour. Now let's talk about the storm surge caused by Hurricane Melissa.
Melissa produced a devastating storm surge along the southwestern coast of Jamaica. Satellite imagery details significant structural damage, displaced vessels, and debris lines along the immediate coast. Maximum storm surge heights were estimated to have reached 7 to 11 feet above ground level, primarily east of Melissa's landfall location, within the area of Crawford and Black River. The storm surge was accompanied by large and destructive waves along the immediate coastline. Elsewhere along the Jamaican coast, storm surge inundation was largely confined to coves and bays, including along the north coast of Jamaica near Montego Bay and Falmouth, where water levels are estimated to have reached between 2 and 4 feet above ground level, respectively. Cuba's eastern provinces of Santiago de Cuba and Guantanamo and the southeastern islands of the Bahamas also experienced significant storm surge and wave impacts from Melissa. For rainfall, the most extreme storm total rainfall occurred across southern Hispaniola, where localized accumulations exceeded over 35 inches, or 900 millimeters, in parts of southern Haiti. Rainfall totals surpassed over 27 inches, or 700 millimeters, in southwestern portions of the Dominican Republic. In Jamaica, storm total rainfall locally exceeded over 32 inches, or 800 millimeters, over the interior highlands. Elsewhere, repeated outer rain bands produced around 8 to 15 inches of rainfall across eastern Cuba and surrounding areas, contributing to significant flash and river flooding and landslides in mountainous terrain. Due to the prolonged heavy rainfall, rivers and streams overflowed their banks, resulting in freshwater flooding in flood-prone communities and across multiple river basins. Flooding impacts were especially notable in areas connected to the Black River Basin, where accumulated runoff from upstream locations contributed to elevated water levels and inundation in downstream locations. In Montego Bay, rivers overflowed their banks as they were not able to drain quick enough due to the impacts from heavy rainfall. Here are some totals from around the region.
So there you have it, our case study on Hurricane Melissa of October 2025. $12.2 billion in damages, along with a ton of records set across the Atlantic Basin and globally, including technological things new to this hurricane and that insane drops on wind speed measurement.
And unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives in this storm.
Yeah.
45 as of March 2026, the report came out, 45 lives were lost in Jamaica, 43 in Haiti. There was others around the region too. So it's just incredible. Number one, how incredible this storm was, but also this could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
A lot more people could have died. A lot more people could have been injured. It was so strong. It's just incredible. It boggles my mind.
Yeah, absolutely devastating hurricane for the Caribbean. The lives and property lost speak for themselves with these numbers. As we mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, we did just put out NOAA's Atlantic Hurricane Forecast prediction for the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. So as we are now into June and we will be in hurricane season until November, I know we've already seen one or two systems popping up so far this month. Be sure to check out our last video. We want you guys to be as prepared and safe as you possibly can this Atlantic season. Again, if you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like, subscribe down below so you never miss the next Meteorology Monday. Follow us over on Instagram and Facebook. Check out our website where you can get your own mug like this very soon, along with hats and shirts and other cool things. If you like what you see and you want to support the channel, we do have that. It'll be linked in the description box, along with all of the resources that we used to put together today's video. And until next time, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Jim.
Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you at the next Meteorology Monday. before we get into all those details,
make sure if you like this video to subscribe, and we're just going to use the take before. Yep.